everybody, I'm Tash.
And I'm Damo.
And together we are excited to bring you another episode of
The
Barry
Chronicles.
So on today's episode, we have the absolute pleasure of talking with Sophie. And Sophie is a member of the Bariatric Support Australia community, and we are going to be able to hear about her journey and her story today. So welcome, Sophie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, it's an absolute honour for us to be able to have a chat with you.
Yeah, really exciting, and so glad that you reached out to us to share your story. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I had surgery in August of 2021. I have two beautiful children. I have a 10-year-old and a 10-month-old. And there's a massive age gap there because it did take us quite a long time to conceive our second, which, we can a bit later. But yeah, it's been a great journey. I've managed to lose 42 kilos.
That's incredible. Wow.
Well done.
And I had a baby and all that as well. So
yeah, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
So the baby, I'm sort of putting it together that you had surgery and got pregnant fairly soon after.
Yeah, so my husband and I have our 10-year-old, and we tried for a very long time. I put on quite a lot of with our first, and we tried for a very long time to have our second. We didn't have any major fertility issues. We had our testing and whatnot, and one of our GPs suggested maybe weight loss would help. I did what we have all done: every diet, everything you can think of. I tried it. I did a couple of kilos, regained more. We all know that cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's what sort of made me think I'll go and have this surgery. What I think I wasn't super honest at the start with my surgeon about my reasons behind wanting the surgery. So I didn't actually tell him that I wanted a baby, so that the conversation didn't really, we didn't really talk about the fact that a lot of women experience heightened fertility quite soon after the weight. So I had the surgery, and it was 4 months after my surgery that I had fallen pregnant.
Surprise!
And I mean, after trying for so long, I just didn't think it would happen so quickly.
Yeah.
But it did, and it was a massive journey. I had to obviously go and see my surgeon then, and we I had an obstetrician and dietitian, and we had to be very, very well supported. And I did continue to lose weight healthily throughout my pregnancy. And the baby was a little bit small, but otherwise she's fine. Yeah.
So was that a very anxiety-inducing moment for you, realizing that you had fallen pregnant so soon after surgery? Were you very concerned? Because I know within the Bariatric Support Australia, it is something that comes up a lot, that people unexpectedly and often happily fall pregnant, and then like quite soon after their weight loss surgery, and then they're left thinking, oh my goodness, how do we do this safely? Can you talk us through the process of what that looked like for you?
Yeah, so I was still in a recovery phase, 16 weeks post surgery. I was still trying to navigate, what my body couldn't do anymore and whatnot. So I was petrified. And after trying for so long, you so desperately want everything to go well. So it was terrifying. And I also, because of the original not being very honest with the surgeon, it was a little bit hard to go back to him and say, hey, I got pregnant. Thankfully, he's an incredible surgeon and was super supportive. And he said, it's going to be okay. He said, absolutely, we can get through this. Because I sort of said, do you recommend, am I going to be able to do this? He said, yep, we can do it. It's fine. But he said, you do need support, more so than I guess, my original pregnancy was very textbook. So this time around, I had to make sure I was seeing a dietitian and actually being really on top of what I was eating and making sure I was meeting those goals. I chose to have a private obstetrician who I saw every week from about 12 weeks to measure, that was, to measure the baby and ensure that all those things were going well. And I actually continued seeing a like a bariatric psychologist, because I found with the anxiety that came from being pregnant and so desperately wanting it to go well, I found a lot of those emotional eating saboteurs coming back. So I ended up seeing, so I saw a bariatric dietitian as well, who really helped me to navigate, that emotional eating, that's been so big in my life. But so it was a big team effort to safely get the baby here.
It sounds very much like you were a very clever cookie, though, and knew all of the, or were aware of yourself and of, previous habits that could potentially have caused things to go a bit amiss. Yes. And it sounds like you really did have a great team around you to support you. So well done with that, because self-awareness, I think, on this journey is such an important part of how we navigate the rest of our lives. Like there's that weight, like the actual event, the weight loss surgery, and then there's our healing phase, but then there's the life afterwards.
That's right. Yeah. And, I didn't realize going into surgery just how much the psychological component is important. And my surgeon said, are you seeing a dietitian and a psychologist? And at the time I was sort of on and off seeing not a bariatric psychologist, just sort of a general one. And it was sort of really hit and miss. I'd go once every month or something. And I sort of said to him, oh, yes, I'm seeing someone. It's all good. And I didn't realize just how much I actually needed to make sure I was seeing someone, because the mental side, I cannot stress enough, for me personally, the mental relationship that I had with food, I had no idea just how much that was impacting my entire life, my entire health. It was massive, and it's still something I work with every day to this day. I still see the psychologist. I'm now nearly 2 years post-op. I'm still working on my triggers and my, eating habits and coming up with more healthier options to manage our stress. And when I was, this is a little bit off topic, when I was about 13 weeks pregnant, I'm from the Northern Rivers, and our region flooded, one of the biggest floods they've ever seen in 500 years. And we lost our whole house. We have a 2-story house.
Oh my God.
Water was a meter in our top story, and we escaped, thankfully, and everything was, but that, being 12 weeks pregnant, which means I was maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 months post-op. I have a 10-year-old who is, has autism and ADHD and all these other traumas. And it was just navigating through that, trying not to eat all those feelings as we're trying to navigate. Well, oh my gosh, we don't have a house. Like, we have nowhere to live. We have no, it was
oh my goodness.
It was the hardest few months of my life. And I honestly think if I hadn't have made sure I was on top of that mental health side of the journey, that I can't say that I would have lost weight. I feel like I would have used food to comfort me during a really traumatic experience. So I really I'm a huge advocate for the mental health side of our surgeries.
Yep, absolutely. I completely and totally agree with you. I think that it is such a massive part. We were actually talking about that this morning, about just how important the mental health aspect is, weren't we, Damo?
Yeah, it's such a big thing. And knowing what your triggers are as well. And if we don't prepare ourselves just for regular life, then we're not going to be prepared for when something terrible happens either.
And unfortunately, it rains on all of us, regardless of, of how well we prepare. Horrible, traumatic things, can take place. Like how random is that? Just some massive flood.
Yeah,
and I'm so sorry that happened to you guys and to your family. And have you recovered okay since then? Is everything all right housing wise?
No, we're in a caravan. We were insured, thankfully. We were so lucky.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is still the reality for the community around at the moment. But insurance companies were very difficult to deal with, so we waited almost a year for our insurance claim to be processed. So we had to buy a caravan, and we're still living in that, and we're just sort of rebuilding slowly. Which is it's been really hard. My eldest daughter really struggles in the caravan, especially when it rains. It's very loud, obviously, and so she gets quite triggered by that. But thankfully the community have created this thing called the Community Organisation Resilience Project. And so you get to go into this, it's a building where they have like, you know, therapists and people that connect you to resources and all these incredible, the community has just come together in such an amazing way.
That's so beautiful.
One of the only things that really got us through, because the story, unfortunately there are still hundreds of thousands of people still unhomed, and it's sort of forgotten about. You know, Australia-wide it's kind of forgotten about because it happened a year and a half ago, but the devastation's still there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm very, very glad that we're able to do our little part, hopefully to remind everybody that, hey, this is still happening. It's still a reality for, you know, for whole segments of our country. That people are still, you know, having to rebuild their lives.
Yeah, that's right. And the government have been quite poor in their response.
Wow.
Yeah, offering people buybacks and then telling them, you know, no, you don't. Their houses were, you know, 14 feet underwater, and then being told that those houses don't qualify for a buyback. And the stories that these poor people, that we're hearing every day, it's horrific. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
That is just shocking.
It is.
Wow.
It is. Yeah.
In our discussions that we had before this, you mentioned an issue called Turner syndrome.
Yeah. So Turner syndrome, I guess it's a massive thing to sort of navigate, but essentially what it is we all have, you know, women have the 2 X chromosomes and men have X and Y. And what's happened when my mum was pregnant was that our chromosomes split differently. So some of my chromosomes have 3 X's, some have 1. In a person that has I'm going to say, I couldn't tell you the medical condition, but a person that has full-blown Turners, they experience like infertility and heart conditions. And it's actually it's sort of similar to a Down syndrome disorder. I only have mosaic Turners, which means only a very small number of my chromosomes are affected. But growing up, it wasn't very well known about when I was when I was diagnosed as a child 30-something years ago. So my mum and I were told, you know, I would be infertile and I'd have heart conditions and I would be overweight. Is another part of this condition. So it was funny because growing up I was overweight, and my mum always sort of thought it's due to this condition. However, I've sort of looked back on my childhood, and, you know, as I have a lot of complex childhood trauma, and I can tell you these like my diet wasn't great, and wonder just how much it was more of a diet thing than it was this Turner's thing. Because as I've gotten older, I've done more research, seen more specialists, because falling pregnant quite young as well. I think I was 20 when we had my firstborn, and that was shocking because I was told I'd never have children. So all of a sudden I'm pregnant, and I've gone and done more research and seen more specialists, and it turns out I actually only have mosaic Turners. So you know, there's actually no way for them to sort of know exactly how I'm going to be affected. So for a doctor to tell my mum when I was 3 that I'd be infertile and overweight and all these things actually, you know, wasn't quite the right way forward, because being you actually can't determine until the child is older how they're going to be affected. So I do have a low egg count, which, you know, is something that sort of made the maybe I wouldn't fall pregnant as easy, was a little bit, but again, it's losing the weight definitely helped that, I think. But other than that, I don't have any major symptoms, I guess, of the Turner syndrome, and neither of my children. I've had them both tested, and neither of them are affected either.
Wow.
Yeah, I do have weird toenails though, just a side note. And apparently that's a part of it. So, and I'm quite short. Height, stature is a thing too, and I'm very short. So
isn't it funny how I guess as medical knowledge grows, things just change. You know, obviously what your mum was told all those years ago was superseded and outdated as more science, I suppose, was conducted around Turner syndrome.
Yeah.
So how did you go about having your children tested for that, if that's not too personal?
No. So they ended up doing they had to test the blood from the amniotic cord, the placenta cord when the girls were born, and that's how they did. And I also had to do the NIPT test. Is it what's that called? I can't think of the actual word, but it's quite common for kind of like the Harmony test at the beginning of a pregnancy. Sort of gives you a bit of a chance of what your child could have. But then and that all came back very normal. And then when they were born, they test the cord blood as well, which kind of gave the girls the all clear for that. But my mum, I'm 31, so 31 years ago, she was actually told to terminate her pregnancy because children with Turners don't have long lives and all these things. So it's and she had told me this story. I have an older sister who's 10 years older than me. And she came home from school one day, I was about 3, and she had an assignment, they were doing some sort of work, and Turner syndrome was in this homework that my sister had brought home. And the things that Turner syndrome, that it said on the homework were incorrect, saying that the children with Turner syndrome are not smart, and they don't have much cognitive function and all this. And my mum wrote this very strongly worded letter about how incorrect all this information was.
Oh my goodness. Go Mum.
Yeah, go Mum. She's good. She's always been a little advocate for me. So it's really nice though that the medicine and science have been able to advance, I guess, people's understanding of Turner syndrome now. We can actually live quite normal lives. And actually another thing, my mum and dad were told that I'd be very that we wouldn't be very cognitively driven. I wouldn't be smart. And so they didn't have high expectations. And I've ended up finishing university last year. I graduated as a teacher.
Amazing.
Yeah, working as a director at an early childhood centre at the moment. So there's definitely, it's, doctor tells you one thing, it doesn't necessarily, it's not gospel, So,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is such an amazing story. And I love it. I love it when we defy, the odds and the diagnosis, and we rise up above the things that are said about us. It's just such an inspiring thing.
Yeah.
We really are capable of amazing things. That's and right. I absolutely love that. I love that you've, just gone on to prove all of those things wrong.
Yeah, that's it. I feel like we're going to keep proving these things wrong. It's been a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just love the fact that you were even able to finish university going through the flood
everything that you've been going
losing
through.
Everything like that. That is such an inspirational story.
I was 35 weeks pregnant doing my final teaching placement at a school.
Oh my gosh.
That was huge.
Go girl.
I just wanted it done. I just wanted it over. So yeah, it's been fun. I couldn't have done it without the support. I've got incredible family, incredible husbands, incredible people around us. And one positive that's come out of the floods is that none of us, it was an entire community. It wasn't just us, so we are no one, we're not in it alone. Beautiful community connections. And, the town I live in now, there's only, I don't know, maybe 400 people in the town, and they do community dinners once a month, something that's never, ever happened before. But
that's amazing.
I love that.
It's at the hall, and the council funds that. And it's so there are, in amongst all the devastation and the sadness, I've seen people come together in ways that I couldn't even imagine. And, living on the North Coast, I noticed something that for me came about was, COVID pulled a lot of us apart in terms of we all had different opinions. And, there was a lot of arguing and, pro-vax and anti-vax and all these things. And it was really sad to watch, people arguing and fighting and whatnot. And all of a sudden the floods happened, and it was like none of that mattered anymore. Vaccinated versus vaccinated, people were saving people, strangers, off their roofs. And we have this movie that's just come out called Tinny Heroes, because so many people were trapped on their roofs and the SES were at capacity. They could not save everybody. And if these people hadn't have gone out on their boats and pull people off roofs, more people would have died. Unfortunately, we did lose lives. About 6 people recorded. But it was you know, so all of a sudden it didn't matter about your differences. These people were saving people, and I was being hugged by strangers, and it was that is something I will never ever forget. You know, that connection was just something that moved mountains. You know.
Yeah, that's just
emotional just talking about it.
No, I could completely understand.
Yeah.
Wow,
that would make me emotional too.
Yeah, the story is just so inspiring. You know, I had no idea about so much of that.
Yeah, it's
and even on the community dinner front, how do you go with that and your weight loss surgery?
Yes, it is funny. So it's really good because it's like a buffet type thing, so you can go and serve yourself. And so I have never, and most people don't really take much notice of what you do and what you eat, because I'm not super.
I agree.
I'm not really public about, you know, my weight loss surgery. That's just a personal thing for me.
You are now.
Yes, well, I imagine my community won't be listening to the podcast.
Yes.
But I can just go and serve myself my own small portion. And the other thing is my husband, he's not overweight himself, but he'll have a smaller plate, knowing that he's most likely going to get my leftovers as well.
Yep. That's great.
The other thing I've noticed is I can't really do liquids like soups or broths or they had like a slow cooker soup night the other night, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So I knew that I just couldn't do. I don't know if it's like mixing solids and liquids. I just doesn't sit well with me. So just knowing what you can and can't do.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, actually, because we had pumpkin soup the other night, and ever since surgery, pumpkin soup used to be one of my favourite dishes, but ever since surgery, it sits really heavy and makes me feel quite ill.
Yeah. I just don't know. You know, for me, I can't sort of eat and drink within that half-hour period, and I just wonder if it's something to do with that, or I just can't do the liquidy kind of meals anymore, which is, you know, fine. But other than that, I've had a pretty good run. In my recovery and my surgery, considering all the things my body's been through.
Absolutely.
I did have a bit of a in terms of healing, I struggled a little bit to swallow for a bit longer than I guess I expected. So they did do a bit more testing, and there was nothing that came out of it. I was fine. So other than that, though, I have been so lucky in my recovery. I've had a really good run.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm actually, this is a bit of a surprise. I'm actually pregnant again.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, only early days, but it'll be interesting this time round, because I did continue to lose weight in my first pregnancy. I've now been sitting at I didn't actually set a goal weight, but I've been sitting at the same weight now for, probably 6-7 months. And so I haven't lost or gained at all. So I'm really interested, because there's actually a Facebook page called, I think it's Pregnancy After Weight Loss Surgery Australia. And it has been such an incredible support in my first pregnancy. And I love that page. And what I noticed originally was that a lot of women struggle with the mental side of gaining weight in their pregnancy post weight loss, and that was something that I didn't experience the first time around. So I'm thinking, obviously, it's most likely going to happen this time, and trying to come up with a plan moving forward in how I'm going to navigate that with my, just mentally. You know, it's something that is common and needs to happen, and how am I going to make sure mentally I am okay with that, so that's something that's going to be new for me.
Yeah. Well, it'll be if you'd like to, we'd love to be able to have you back and see,
follow your journey a little bit.
How this all pans out for you, if you'd like that.
Yeah, that would be great. Definitely, I think it'll be a different experience. I mean, this is my third pregnancy, and my first one, as I said, I gained a lot of weight. I was very unhealthy. I hated every second of my pregnancy, because I was always in pain and all the things that sort of go with that. And then my second one, it was smooth and wonderful and healthy, and it was great. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens this time round. Yeah,
very exciting.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're nearly at our time limit.
Yeah.
So we just really want to thank you for joining us and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Sophie.
thanks so much for having me. It's something I'm really passionate about. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great. And we will definitely catch up soon. Hey.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.